Reddit by Reddit recap. What's the strangest punishment your parents ever gave you? When I was 10, Mum would take my NES games for a week. When I was 13, Mum would take my SNES games for a week. When I was 16, Mum would take my blank floppy disks for a week. I didn't explain the mistake to her until I moved out. I would have written Nintendus on the floppy disks so she continued to believe those were the actual game cartridges. All I can imagine is just a drawer full of floppy disks with names on them which are all blank and an old cardboard box of numbered floppy disks with stuff on them. Me and my sister were fighting after I tried to steal some of her chili fries and she stabbed me with a fork. Dad took us out back and tied us up face to face with a rope. Told us when you figure out how to work together you will be able to get out. Did you work together and get out? After we stopped spitting on each other. Yes. When I was 16 I got caught shoplifting a CD. Thankfully they didn't press charges but my father confiscated every possession I owned short of the essentials, mattress, blankets, clothes, and ironically, a $200 police scanner. Still in the box. He didn't know about. And that's how I got into listening to police scanners. Edit. Scanner was shoplifted as well and I never shoplifted again after getting caught. Stolen. I assume. Dad made me splice together his old 8mm vacation films into a Vine-style highlight reel after I hurt his feelings by refusing to see Chef with him. Why did you refuse to watch it with him and have you watched it with him since then? What did you think about his vacation films? If I misbehaved in a car, my mom would lower the window and say that a bird would fly in if I'd continue to misbehave. Were you afraid of birds? Or just the thought of getting a bird smacked into your face at terminal velocity? Was the car free falling into a bottomless void? My mom always told me I would end up in prison. As punishment, she would make me sit in timeout under an office desk with a slat-back chair turned upside down on top so the back covered the opening like bars. Come dinner time she fed me hard rolls and water because that's what they serve in prison. I found out years later. While not good food, prison food is much better than hard rolls and water. So she was right all along? Chicken or the egg situation? Can you tell a 7-year-old is destined for prison? Or does telling them that's where they will end up nudge them in that direction? When I was little, my mom's go-to punishment was to make me kneel on uncooked rice for about 15 minutes. Had to keep a straight back or else the time was increased. She did this because that was how her mom punished her and her brother. She eventually stopped using this punishment after she set some clear boundaries with my very controlling grandmother. She never felt right making me do it. My little sister never had to go through it. I kind of resented that for a while. But eventually was grateful she didn't experience it. Filipino family, or Southeast Asian? Fairly common old school punishment back in the days of my parents and their parents. Etc. There's also squatting. Hands extended with books balanced on top. Standing in a corner with books balanced on your head. These being common school punishments. That is a double glow up. Your mom was like my mom is not so. I'm not following her examples. And realized even the stuff that worked in the past was bullshit. You realize that going through it was cruel and your sister was lucky to avoid it and it was good. I am so happy. If I cursed, my mom would make me go into the bathroom and say every curse I knew while looking in the mirror so I could see how ugly I made myself look while cursing. Well, I learned that if I wanted to curse with impunity all I had to do was say ass and get sent to the bathroom where I could say any curse I could think of. Punishment free. For as long as I wanted. Lol. Accidentally taught you venting coping skills. Neat. I was not allowed to read unless it was specifically for school. My teachers stopped letting me bring books to class because I would finish my work early and read. I got the answers right and I wasn't causing trouble. So I still don't get why. I got in trouble for practicing cursive writing after my assignments were done. One of my deskmates said it bothered her. So I wasn't allowed. Still salty about that. For some reason my parents allowed my brother and I to have a very basic bow and arrow which we were allowed to shoot at a cardboard box in the backyard. I, being very young and very dumb, crawled into the box while my brother was firing. Parents were not pleased, and to demonstrate how dangerous what I had done was, they made me lay on the couch for the whole day and pretend I was in a hospital bed. I mean, if you were an active kid and weren't allowed to move or play with toys, boring TV and bland food, I can see that as a punishment. Still weird though. This really just describes what I did today. If you had no TV then I could see it, but he was on the couch. So unless the family vacated the room just to perform this strange punishment, then I doubt it. Not really a strange punishment, but it turned out strangely, I think. When I was probably 5 or 6, something happened, literally can't remember what I did to deserve the punishment, that caused my parents to send me to my room with no lights allowed on and the door closed. I'd never been able to sleep with the door closed and at least a light on in the hall or something till then. This time, I just went to sleep after a while in there with no lights. And that was the last time I needed lights on or the door open when I went to bed. Worked out well from my point of view. Emo. Edit. Wow, this kinda blew up over the weekend. I should say that I grew up during the late 60s when spanking was just a normal thing too. I don't remember ever actually getting spanked though. I dunno. My parents were never cruel to us when we were children. In fact, maybe I was just sent to my room and I just didn't turn on the light myself. Goodness knows I could have. The switch was on the inside of my room. I might have just pouted on my bed till I fell asleep and realized later that I didn't have the light on. It was around 50 years ago or so. I remember that it happened, but I don't remember the specific circumstances. Worked out well from their point of view too. I was being a dong as a teen. I think I was 15, and tormenting my little brother by grossing him out. Stuff like burping in his face when he didn't expect it, making him smell my feet, etc. And he really hated it. It made me laugh and I called him a kitten for being grossed out so easily. After he came to her crying one day about it, my mom warned me that if I didn't stop, I'd be very sorry. I didn't listen. Worst mistake of my childhood. My mom ran a small doggy daycare pet grooming business. The next time I did this to my brother, she put me to work cleaning filthy dog kennels, without gloves, and without a scooper. Worse, she introduced me to what dog anal glands are, which groomers often have to express. Around 3 times a day that week, I had to express dog anal glands. I was not allowed to wear gloves. I puked. Every single time. She planned on the punishment lasting all week. But my bro asked her to let me off the hook after he saw how defeated and broken I looked by Wednesday. Why do so many of these comments involve animal fluids? There should only be so many. That sounds fair except the whole no gloves thing. I was deathly afraid of my basement. And the threat from not adhering to lights out time was being forced to sleep in the basements for the night. Anyway, I forget what I was doing, but I was up to no good one night. Probably reading comic books with a flashlight or something. I got sent to sleep in the basement and was pretty much up all night being super scared. It was threatened a lot, but I think it only actually happened once. I was a smartest kid. My aunt tried once to threaten me that the boogeyman will take me to the basement if I don't behave and eat me her. Can you hear him roar my 4-year smart mouth? Auntie, you know better. That's the boiler. She said I was super condescending and that made her quit. Then one day she broke a wooden spoon whipping my ass and I still tense up hearing the drawer clang open to this day. I would get grounded to the front porch because when I was grounded in my room I would entertain myself with literally anything. Even lint from the carpet. So my dad finally had enough and made me sit on the front porch and I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone except to say that I'm grounded and can't talk. Random stranger walks by. Hi. I'm grounded. My dad said I can't talk to you. Hi grounded. I'm dad. Withheld dinner and I was only allowed to have bread and butter. My mother is a terrible cook so I was super okay with this. My stepsister was denied dinner once because my dad decided the whole family was going to share this giant nacho plate and that was our only option for dinner. My stepsister and I were close so later I made and snuggled her a PB&J sandwich. Later that evening everyone but her stepsister was violently ill from the nachos. I made and snuggled her a PB&J sandwich. Truly, a sandwich made with tender love and care. My parents routinely took away my library card when I did something worth punishing, so I memorized it. When they caught on, they refused to go to the library with me for the duration of my punishment. So I started volunteering at the library once a week, so they had to take me. Improvise. Adapt. Overcome. Steady on. Hermione. I had to fill cut open tennis balls with pennies. I'm still not sure what that was about. I was innocent BTW. It's called a pitcher's ball. You fill a tennis ball with coins and tape it with duct tape. Makes the ball heavy, so helps with training catching and throwing for baseball. How to make a pitcher ball. I kinda wanna do that just to know what that's like. Seems weird, but IDK. Mum found out I ditched mass at school, Catholic school. So she made me go to all 7 masses offered by my church that weekend. Total time over the weekend spent in church was like 10 hours. I had the gospel and the homily memorized. I got a bad grade on a math test in elementary school. As my dad dropped me off for the day, I quickly told him he needed to sign something, the test. He was so furious that even though I was already late for school, he drove the 2 miles back home, spanked me and made me walk to school. I was so late. Forced to smell dog breath. Because if we have to deal with the filth from your mouth, then you have to deal with the filth from its mouth. I got this on numerous occasions. It sounds silly at first, but it was anything but at the time. I begged them to give me anything but that. Like for swearing. Best comment of the day. I had the knees in raw ice punishment. It was one of the most painful punishments as a kid. We would beg for a whipping instead. This is down south. If you're spotted even slightly shifting your knees from the rice, you'd be whipped and forced to start over with more time on your knees. The worst was realigning your knees and gouged skin back into the rice, which felt worse. My sister went to my mother, who was working across the house, to beg her to let me up one time because it had been so long and I was sobbing. Turns out she forgot about me. My mom felt so bad, and I can't remember having that punishment afterwards. It's a really cruel punishment.